Welcome back, everybody, to Build Different Finance. Today's episode is a really special one because we're not just going to talk about numbers, we're going to talk about life experience. I've got someone here who has spent decades helping people, from real estate to Medicare and now into financial services. When you've seen that much, you start to understand what really matters. So I'm excited to jump into this conversation. I've really been looking forward to this one. We are going to talk about money, but not just money, but legacy and lessons and what people wish they knew sooner. So thank you so much. Welcome, Miss Leora Johnson. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you so much, Shanna, for inviting me to have a conversation with you. I'm really excited. I've been anticipating this as well and wondering, okay, so what am I going to talk about? But this is really an exciting time. It's an exciting time in my life. It's an exciting time for baby boomers, far and wide. And I certainly do represent the baby boomer generation and am just had a life full of experiences. And like you mentioned, that I do most of my life, I've been helping people, like in all of the careers. I've had, I think, five or six different careers, that span. You mentioned real estate. Yes, I was a real estate broker for 28 years
Okay.
and ran a brokerage in Washington State for 10 years. And I have been working in the Medicare space for 13
Oh, wow.
years. And so I've helped my clients with their medical plans, as they're transitioning, and mostly baby boomers. Well, I actually all baby boomers because they're all 65 and older. And then I came into the Medicare space when I made 65 and have been there for some time now. So really excited about that. But if there's anything in particular that you'd like for us to concentrate on, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, yeah, definitely. I know being in real estate and then Medicare and now financial services. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about your journey and how you got there.
Well, it's interesting. How I got into the financial services was merely quite by accident. It was a friend of mine who had been in financial services for about 30 years and throughout those 30 years had invited me in, but I just didn't see where I fit, right? Because I was concentrating in the real estate market and really enjoyed working with individual clients. And but I moved from Atlanta, Georgia to the Bay Area. And my licensing was a little bit of a challenge, in California. They required that I would start all over again,
Oh,
and after having been a broker since 1995, but in real estate since 1988, I did not want to start all over again because that was 2013 when I
yeah.
moved here. And so I was introduced to insurance, as it was presented to me as a place that I could really utilize the skills that I had developed as a real estate broker, working one-on-one with meeting individual needs. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I still didn't want to do that. And so, but he says, well, what else are you going to do? And I didn't have anything else on my plate. So
Right.
I thought, well, why not? It
Yeah.
may be something that could meet the need that I had. And that is because I didn't prepare for retirement. I
Hmm.
had been self-employed since 1990, and it was always tomorrow. Tomorrow
Right.
I will start my retirement fund. Well, the next time I get a really big check, then I'll take that and I'll put it into a plan and get started that way. But
Mhm.
tomorrow never came, and it was always putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So I do understand the dilemma that many retirees and baby boomers in particular struggle with today. But getting into financial services was, I was introduced to this particular end of my life and health license,
Right.
utilizing my life insurance license by a client who
Mm,
had come to me
okay.
to find a plan for her mother. Her mother was moving from one part of California to Northern California, and she needed a health plan. And so I was able to assist her with that, get her all established. And then she invited me to hear about something that she was doing. She says, "Oh, you'd be perfect. You'd work in this really well." It's like you could utilize a skill that you already have. And so, and again, we're talking about skill transfer, right?
Yes.
And it's like, and we spend a lifetime learning skills, whether we are intentional about it or it just happens as a result of the things that we find ourselves putting our hands to. And so, but after hearing about the what it is that was being offered, this is a way to help people first. Of course, our mission is no family left behind. And to really take hold of that mission, it's like, wow, I'm left behind, right? I put myself behind, right? Because
Yeah.
of the choices that I made. But to find out that I could work at something that was going to fulfill a need that I had in myself, and that is to help others, as well as to prepare for my own retirement. So it was a
Yeah.
twofold opportunity for me, one that I have been now actively operating in I'm beginning my 8th year on May
That's
1st.
awesome. Oh,
So it'll
wow.
be the start, right? So I have an anniversary coming up, but it's been really exciting to be able to help individuals to navigate and to focus on what they need for retirement. And most of the clients that I work with are either nearing retirement or in retirement. And
Right.
so I'm just really excited to be able to help with that. It's like many of the retirement struggles that baby boomers face is one, we forget to build an emergency fund. So when we're ready to retire, then we come up, oh, I got to sock money away. So then you take everything that you earn and you put it in
Put
a
it in the
bucket.
freezer.
Right, 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 right. Right. And so, and then, oh, I never did. I had insurance through my employer, but now I need to have it because I'm no longer going to have that because I'm retired now. I'm separated from my employer.
Mhm.
It's like, well, what do I do with my money? Who do I talk to? Who can help me? And many people of retirement age are not necessarily ready for retirement financially. And so then what we're able to do is to help them figure that out, right?
Right.
One of the questions that we ask is, what is your fin number? And individuals will say, well, what is that? I don't know, fins, like a
Right.
fish, you know? And it's like, well, your financial independence number. And but
Uh-huh.
what does that mean, really? The fin number is the one that states, well, what do I need if I were in retirement today to manage my expenses, right?
Right.
That's your housing, food, transportation, entertainment,
Hmm.
gifting, right? If you have children, how can I help continue to support them? So what do you need on a monthly basis to make life manageable,
Yeah.
right? And so we help individuals to find that number, right?
Mhm.
And so I know the first time I was asked that question, it was like, well, what do you need in retirement? And I thought $15,000 a month, right? And I thought, okay, yeah, that would be good because at the time my sister and I were living together. And so I wanted to be able to care for both of us, right? And so I kind of doubled
Yeah.
what I
Right.
believed that I really needed on a monthly basis. And so then how do you then figure out how to get that
Right.
number,
Hmm.
because once we're no longer working, then that income is what we need to be regular, right? And so, in some of the services and products that we have available, uh, can help to establish that. I am recently helped a client who just retired in January, and our team had been working with her to get things set up. She was planning to retire in a couple of years, but then after 6 months, it was like, okay, well, I'm out, right? So then we had to help her, and speed up the process. And we were able to help her take her 401(k) and convert that to an annuity where she would have income for life,
Yes.
and also to set aside some other dollars in a growth accumulation fund, an accumulated growth fund for her for later, so
Hmm.
that as inflation takes over, which is one of what we call the sinister six,
Hmm.
one of those things that really have a great impact on what the value of our dollars. The dollar today is not going to be have the same value tomorrow as it does
No,
today.
it's
We can
not.
hope that it would have a greater value than it does today, but I haven't seen that in my lifetime that that the dollar
Right?
has increased in value. It
Yeah.
has diminished. I can remember when we paid 25 cents a gallon for gasoline
Oh, nice.
when I was in high school, right? And there weren't different grades of gas. It was just leaded gas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that affected the environment. A lot of things have happened since over those many decades, but it's just really something to consider, right? And we want our seniors to have what is called, live your golden years, right? The golden years are supposed to be the years in which you just sit back and relax and you can do what you want to do. But
Mhm.
when finances are troublesome, then it makes for a pretty, stressful. It can be stressful. So we help to properly prepare our clients with what they need, or so that they're at least aware of what's coming down the pike. It's like healthcare costs is one of the
Yeah.
things that it's said in different reports that we've read that you need about $350,000 over your retirement years to cover your healthcare costs. That's not premiums. That's just the extra stuff.
Wow.
That's just outside of your
Mhm.
regular, medical plan that you might have. You might have a need for long-term care, right? You may have a chronic illness that develops and you need some specialized care. So
Mhm.
how are you going to finance that? These are the considerations that the baby boomers are really necessarily need to consider, and we're here to educate individuals on what could be, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
from an insurance perspective, what we insure against is the risk of loss,
Right.
right? The risk, no one, you won't have the income that you had coming in through your work life, but you will have your retirement income and at whatever level that is. Then you have to figure out, well, how do I parse it out? How can I best manage the dollars that I have available to me? And with that, some of the products that we offer, services, are not, we don't do investments, at least not on my level. We do have available those individuals who can work in the brokerage category, but I'm not licensed, in that regard. But we want to help them to figure out how to combat inflation, right? That's sure to come. You know, we're
Yes, I think
experiencing.
that you have, wow, just so much. That's so true. Like even from your perspective of being older in finance, you think about when you were doing real estate, didn't you say that, did you stop doing real estate in '08 when the crash happened?
Well, I, yeah, sort of, kind of. When the crash happened, I had, ex I'll tell you about the other experiences that I had. In 1987, Black Monday, we lost our shirts, you
Ah,
know, on Microsoft investment. It was like everything, the market just died and crashed and burned, and it was years to recover, from that. But in 2000, and then of course, when the Twin Towers were taken down, then we had another economic crash. And so having lived through that and had the damage that it did to the economy was really pretty tough. But in 2008, it was like everything crashed.
mm,
It wasn't just a segment of the
yeah.
of the economy that crashed, but across the board, everything happened. Everything stopped. Everything came to a full stop. And in real estate, I first realized it because I had just moved to Georgia to set up my retirement. I was thinking retirement, right? I'm going to go and I'm going to work. This is the uh, area in the country where more new construction was going on than anywhere else, and homes were being sold prior to them even digging up the first spade of soil.
Mm,
Right. And
mhm.
so people, they were under contract, and I thought, well, this is great. I can go and I can work for a builder. Clients will come directly to me. and I can help them to fulfill, that need. So, but anyway, a few months after going to Georgia and working for a builder, I realized something was off. I had been through many cycles in the real estate market, and this one felt like that. And I thought, oh no, this is not now. This is not
I'm about to
this
retire.
this wasn't the plan.
Yeah, right.
Right. And when I asked questions of those that I was in league with, they were like, oh, everything is fine. I says, well, but clients aren't able to get loans. That was the first sign. And this is in 2006.
Okay.
So
Oh,
the
wow. Okay.
the downturn started happening in 2006.
Mhm.
It blew up in 2008. But in 2006, then things started to show themselves as not working. The builder had 30 different developments going on in the
Mm.
Atlanta, Georgia region. And then the bank came back and took all of those properties, right? And so then we ended up, some of the real estate agents, we started a new brokerage firm and sold bank-owned properties,
Mm.
right? And those were the properties that were close to completion and that the builder had, but the builder no longer was in ownership of those properties. And so we were able to, eke a living out, for a little while, but it didn't last very long. And then the market stopped. So, and it didn't return. And I expected that the market was going to return. So I went back to school. I finished a bachelor's degree that I had started 42 years earlier, like, and
Never too late.
the market still didn't return. So I got a master's degree, because I just had time and I
Yeah.
didn't have any other skill because I had been doing real estate for so long. I had my brokerage was still kind of hanging on in Seattle. There was a little bit of business here and there. And then I was licensed in Georgia as well. And by 2015, I had to just let it go because it just wasn't feasible, anymore. So that I wasn't able to really get that done. But a lot of people lost a lot during the
Mhm.
2008 economic downturn.
Yeah.
Many people, um, some of our team members, here
Yeah.
on 300 Leadership Development
Yeah.
had lost in a day
Wow.
$300,000
Yeah.
from their 401k plans,
Yeah.
right? And it was just devastating. It was a devastating loss. And we've been clawing back from the 2008 downturn, ever since. And
Yeah.
and it
Mhm.
Mhm.
I always say that people, they lost their shirts during '08 and they're like, well, you lost 40%, you'll get that back, but you still only have 60% to play with. You never really truly do get that back. And so I love your experience as you talk through quite a time period in real estate. And so when you think about that and you think about financial services, setting yourself up for the future, how did those two go together? Like, what have you learned from that to being like, well, yeah, I have a mission, right? Like you said, our motto is no family left behind. So how do you utilize that where you are right now?
Right now, what I do is it depends on the age group of the individuals that I'm working with, is how I might direct that. It's like for someone in their uh, late 30s, early 40s, mid 40s, then I recommend that you start now. You start now to grow your retirement.
Yeah.
And you can do it in a number of ways. You can keep your 401k, but you can take some of the uh, contribution that you're making and reallocate it to
Hmm.
a plan that's going to be protected
Yes.
against loss, right?
Hmm.
Because your 401k is not protected against loss. You can achieve the highest highs in the marketplace, but you also experience and have to deal with the lows that come, so
Yes.
the ups and downs in the market. And of course, like you were saying, that, what was 100% when the loss occurred is not 100% when the market returns. It takes
Right.
you twice as long to recover
Right.
from a market loss as it did to lose it. Right. You
Yeah.
can lose it in an instant, but it takes longer to recover from it. So why not diversify your dollars, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
put some of your income into an area that is going to allow you to have your money make money for you, you know. And one of the things that we look at is a combined strategy that combines a life insurance with a savings plan. You know,
Right.
you may
Yes.
have heard about that, the Index Universal Life, you know, but that's for those individuals who still have some work time left, and so they have income coming in, but they can contribute a portion of what they're contributing to their 401ks into this strategy that is going to grow over time with compound interest. It's like the 401k doesn't grow with compound interest. Okay. It
Right. The
grows
rule of
from market
72, you
activity.
need that time, right?
Right, exactly, right. You know, and so that when you look at it, have an opportunity to start now and to really, and so it's not really necessarily about taking an additional chunk out of your income, but reallocating some of what
Right.
you currently are setting aside. Now, that's just for those individuals who are under 50, right?
Right.
Anybody who's nearing retirement, you know, that we don't recommend that they enter because it's a long-term opportunity. You need at least 15 years, right, to maximize the growth, you know, in that, or you need to double up on what it is that you're
Right.
contributing
Max it out,
into that
right?
sort of a strat. Right, max it out. We've had some great success with individuals since I've been in the business who've realized great gains, you know, because of the compound interest. But we, as long as we do our due diligence in creating a plan that works best for the individual client, then they can see success. And so we can do that. Now, a person who's nearing the retirement age, then there are some things that you can do, like I mentioned earlier about a client that I helped to get into an income for life
Hmm.
strategy where she knows that she's got that guaranteed income for the rest of her life.
Yes.
Right. You know, but we figured out what her financial independent number was along with her social security uh, income. She's got that, plus she has her income for life, and she has another amount of money, nest egg, that she set aside for growth. And then when that matures, she'll be able to add that and at that time, she's looking at really avoiding the inflationary bite,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, for her.
Hmm.
Right. And so I just think that what we do matters, right? You
It
know, we
does matter.
also provide, you know, so we have a suite of things that we can do. We can help you with any retirement plan that you currently have in place and getting that into a position where you can protect it. So it's like you want to protect your money, grow your money, or make more money, right? And so those are the three mantras that we have when we educate individuals on what it is that we do and what we can provide, what help that we can give, you know, to the community. And so I'm really loving it, you know.
I think it's so cool just to hear you talk. You have such a wealth of knowledge, but I love that you kind of knew where you were, right? And what you need to do to move forward. So you're thinking about the younger people, but also that you're in that baby boomer, generation of how do they protect their money, and
Mhm.
thinking about putting yourself in a product where you're not going to lose money. You kind of are protected and it doesn't ride with the market up and down where it's going to crash, right? So that
Right.
when you are at that place and you need to pull money out to support yourself, because that's, what we do. We want to work hard. We want to eventually retire. We want to play hard, spend time with our family, enjoy the benefit of all that work that we put in. If we're putting it in the market and one day it's not there, you see the people that are older working at Walmart, and it is hard to plan ahead. And I heard something, if you start putting $1 away, maybe you do that for a few months, maybe then you could put $2 away a day. And before you know it, it's a habit. And then you're
Mhm.
going to be in a good spot. And I was thinking about what you said. A lot of people don't have a lot of money, but when you think about looking at your finances and you kind of try to find the holes in the boat with the finances, right? I'm like, am I going to Starbucks every day? How much am I eating out? Do I really need 15 subscriptions to watch TV? And we just kind
Mhm.
of get used to these things, but it's like a mind shift. Just
Mhm.
start training yourself to put money away for your retirement. And I think that you're an incredible financial advisor because you're able to give such a wealth of experience to people. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain and say, when you think now about people leaving a legacy, and so if you were talking to yourself several years ago, what would you tell yourself differently then than you would maybe now? Like, what plan of action do you think people should take?
I think you should pay yourself first.
Mhm.
That's a great question. And I think that you should always set aside a tithe for yourself, a tenth
Yeah.
of your income for you, for
Mhm.
your future. And if you get it, like you were saying, if you get into the habit of setting it aside, it becomes, it's just what you do,
Mhm.
right? It's no longer a sacrifice. It's just, this is what I need to do. And but to have you have to understand why it is that that's necessary. And you have to look at it from your future self, right? Consider yourself, love
Yeah.
yourself, right? And this is a way to love yourself and love those whose lives you impact,
Mhm.
and if you start early, I can remember when I was in elementary school that someone from the bank used to come to the class once a week, and we all had savings passbooks, and
Wow.
you put a nickel a week
That's a
into this.
financial education that we don't get now. I'm like, that's
Right.
awesome.
Right, but it's a nickel a week, and then that just mounts up, and you find a nickel. You might find your nickel in the gravel as you're walking home from the store getting penny candy. This was so long ago, right? I don't think they have penny
Penny
candy
candy. What?
anymore. Right? You could get a handful of candy for a penny,
I
right?
love
You know,
it.
just get it, just reach in the jar and pull it out and just give me a penny,
Wow.
right? But that was a practice that was instilled in us when I was in elementary school. But when I got to middle school, junior high school, we called it, then it was no longer part of the curriculum. They started us off with it, but had we continued in that regard, then it would have been more beneficial, right?
Mhm.
If that had been a continuing part of the educational process. But I see that just in general, anyone who starts a job, pay yourself first,
Yeah.
right? Regardless of how much you earn. If you were earning, I know that there at a time, my first job, I got 75 cents an hour. My first tax return, I was earning $1.25 an hour, right? That was a full-time job. The first tax return that I did was at $1.25 an
Amazing.
hour. Life has changed,
Yeah.
it's like, and that was the minimum wage. But nonetheless, at that time, I had a habit of setting aside money to save, right? And so it's really knowing to continue with that habit. Don't let it go. Don't let it, you get I got into my 20s, and then I was like, I wanted to look like everybody else, like peer pressure really came down hard, right? I
Yeah.
wanted to drive a nice car. I wanted to have a television, right? I
Mm-hmm.
wanted a record player. I wanted records,
Uh-huh.
And so like I took all of the money that extra money, and I spent it on those kind of things. And so I didn't put it toward any future. I was only thinking about the now. And I think that many people do that. And so the recommendation is really to help people understand the value of saving, the
Yeah.
value of setting aside some, even if it's for emergency purposes.
Mm-hmm.
We need to set it aside. It's one of the other things about creating a great financial plan is to have your emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
Right, 6 to 8 months now. We used to say 3 to 5, but
Right.
now you don't know. Like after COVID, we've upped that to 6 to 8 months of
Mm-hmm.
expenses, to have that set aside. But in addition to that, then you also want to save for your retirement. You don't want to set that aside. And there are so many options that are available to individuals these days that can help you with that. And we offer those as part of our training and our
Yeah.
education. But you have to you got to make that decision.
Yeah, you
That
just
is
got to
the
do
only
it.
decision.
I think all of us. need to look for those nickels
Mhm.
because those nickels add up. And I just think, that's something that you could plan for. But even, people are thinking, oh, I'm old, I just need a final expense plan. There's so many good opportunities where you could still leave a legacy behind for your family. And I was
Mhm.
just talking to my husband about this and how, when my mom passed away when I was younger, there was no money. There was no funeral plan. My sister had to come up with a plan. There was no party after. There was nothing to celebrate her. It was sad. But on the reverse, my father-in-law, they had planned, and we
Mhm.
had a great memorial and we really celebrated. He was a jokester. If you know my husband, he's a jokester and he got it on us from his dad. And we had such a great time and so many memories. So there's so many different layers to think about with families. Individuals, families, businesses, when you think about financial planning. It's not just about when I die, I hope I get some money, or we could pay for the funeral or we're
Mhm.
able to leave something behind. We're able to pull money out when we're alive. There's just so many different things to do. And I love just your wisdom of if I were to tell someone, it would be start paying yourself first, right? It's so valid.
Right. And I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate this discussion, and that legacy is different things for different people.
Hmm.
Some people it's money, but and if it is money, that's a great leg up for the next generation. It's like
Yeah.
we want to think beyond the life that we have
Yes.
been granted and been blessed to have here on the earth, and that to help the next generation to have have startup capital, right? I think about our economy and what happens so often. There's always the ups and the downs, in the market, and we have to learn to ride the waves.
Yes.
And it's really important to be able to not have to start at the bottom every time.
Hmm.
It's like to start all over again. What value then does the prior generation bring to the next generation? And I know I have 78, 79, probably 80, 85 nieces and nephews,
Wow.
right? And so my family is very fertile, right? So took that law, to be fruitful and multiply, and ran with it.
Yes.
And so really interesting. I don't personally have any children, so that my perspective really is about others leaving a legacy, right? And how we can help them to establish that because they do have the children, and the children are so important, and financial literacy is something that is really lacking in our community. So financial literacy is part of that legacy
Yes.
that we share, with our communities and with those individuals that are able to sit down and speak to. But the legacy of it's like we talk about the Rockefellers who established what is some called the family bank,
Right.
or the infinite banking, where
Yes.
you actually set up a strategy that not only helps you and those who are currently walking the earth and needing finances to, be your own bank,
Right.
right?
Yes.
To provide those that dollars and not pay interest to another entity, right?
Right.
But
Yes.
it's like, but it's you taking care of yourself, you setting aside
Hmm.
your dollars to build that, right? And that's something that families can do. And I think that the Rockefellers have amassed over $7 billion in their family bank, right? And that's
Yes.
seven generations
Yes.
of people, right, that are going to be taken care of from now into what do you call it? Perpetuity, is it?
Activity.
Like for forever,
Forever and ever and ever and
forever.
ever.
Sometimes words escape me,
Affinity.
but I kind of think infinity and beyond, right? So it's really something that we hope that everyone will take hold of and understand the value in that, and in the end, hey, if you build it and you don't have anyone to leave it to, there's always a cause, right? There's always a need,
Yeah.
in the earth. And so let's just do that. Let's be a blessing to those who
Yes.
we encounter as well as
Absolutely.
those who are yet to come.
Hmm.
And so I'm just really excited about this for you, and thank you so much for inviting me to have a discussion with you. I feel like maybe I didn't hit on everything that I
You
could
did great.
have,
Yeah.
but I just really appreciate just talking about it, talking about it. And I think that that makes a difference in the lives of people when they hear a conversation that so many didn't have around the tables. I know that I lost my parents when I was 14 years old, so it didn't have those financial conversations other than we can't afford this. It's like, um, hey, we get paid every 2 weeks, and every dollar goes out to buy groceries and to
Yeah.
pay the mortgage, and to pay the utilities and buy gas. But thank God gas was only 25 cents, you know, at the time, but the incomes were a lot less as well.
Wow.
But still to have these conversations, I think brings value to the world. And I just love you having set this podcast into motion. This is exciting. I'm so grateful for you, Shanna, and for your husband, Jeff, who I know is not with you, today, but the two of you working together has been just a real great time for me, and to watch your family and to see how you're creating a family business and you're able to help so many more.
Mm,
Because this is all about the exponential growth. It's not addition, but it's multiplication.
yeah.
And I think that by you taking this step to inform the world about what's possible,
Yeah.
it's a really great thing. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Leora. It's so fun. I love what you said about it being a blessing. There's so many different ways that we can bless people. It's not about being the most wealthy person, but if you could help someone, oh my gosh, that is the best feeling in the world, you know?
Mhm.
And so I love all the different aspects that you touched on. And thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you, everybody out there, for watching. If you want to get your house, your financial house in order. If you need Medicare, life insurance, reach out. I'm so glad that you all and with Leora could spend time with us today. This it's so fun. Like I could just sit back and not say anything. And there's so many more stories Leora could tell that she's not telling. This woman has lived a lifetime of fun and just a lot of different wisdom that she has. So, thank you guys. If you've enjoyed this, please like, share, hit that bell for notifications, and stay informed, stay prepared, and take control of your financial future. My information will be in the description and in the comments. Thanks. See you next time.